Assalamu alaikum. So continuing on with part three of reason number three, born convert disaster marriages. So I want to mention that this is something that Brother Maliki Kleek pointed out, is that we have the opposite dynamic where if you have male converts or male non-Muslims who are trying to date or marry born Muslim females, they are not afforded nearly the same latitude as the inverse situation where you have a Muslim man dating or wanting to marry a convert woman or non-Muslim woman. So Muslim men, so this is not acceptable in most Muslim cultures. Islamically, a Muslim woman has to marry a Muslim man, whereas a Muslim man can marry a Jewish or Christian woman. So that's one reason why it's more strict. But even the culture itself, even among Christian Arab culture, the inverse situation of a Christian woman, Arab Christian woman dating a Muslim man is more taboo than the other way around. So it's very common that if a male convert, will approach a Muslim family and say, oh, can I have your daughter's hand in marriage? They're much more likely to be rejected and say, oh, you won't understand the culture, because they're afraid that usually the family follows the culture of the man. So they're afraid that their family is going to lose it on the culture, and a lot of them are terrified that if this brother leaves Islam, because they're terrified that converts will leave Islam because we have high attrition rates, that they'll have to get divorced, and their daughter's life will be ruined, because for women, virginity is held in much higher standard, whereas if a guy gets divorced, it's not that big of a deal. So even attempting this, trying to marry a born Muslim woman can result in suspicion, rejection, sometimes outright death threats from the family. And a lot of times, I don't think the family can be to blame all the time. I think even if they have the best intentions at heart, there may be things you don't know about, that may be just terrible for all parties involved. I remember one convert woman wanted to marry her Palestinian boyfriend, and the family was, he asked his mother, and then his mother was like, no, we can't have you marrying a white girl. It's not that we won't accept her, but it's just that we'll be disowned from the Palestinian community. So there may be things you just don't know about, and they may be doing you a favor by saying, you don't want to get into this marriage. And I think rather than just, shrug them off as racist, they might know things that you don't know about. So even some countries like Saudi Arabia, like a Saudi woman, it's a law, it's in the books. A Saudi woman cannot marry a non-Saudi man, even if he's Arab. Whereas a Saudi man it's the other way around. That's perfectly fine because the culture will stay with the family. So let's take a look more at the dynamic of the convert female marrying her Muslim boyfriend. So normally these are not practicing brothers, or maybe they're on the fence. May Allah guide them. I don't want to denigrate them. Or else normally he wouldn't be dating her, really. I mean, he may be courting her and being, not touching her or anything. And I don't want to criticize brothers, the brothers. So don't, try not to misconstrue my words here. By contrast, usually the convert wants to follow their religion very closely, because that's the only thing that we have to fall back on. And both also to fit in, and normally because we're stronger in faith. So in terms of religiosity, you usually have a complete mismatch. This can result in huge arguments. I've seen female converts who are praying 5 times a day, and the husband wasn't praying at all. And this one case, she literally had to drag this brother to the Juma prayer at the request of the imam, because the imam's like, if the brother's not praying, then he's not a Muslim. And you also have a situation where sometimes where women are highly influenced by feminism, and are only told really half the story about how Islam is in accordance with feminism by only talking about the rights of the wife and the responsibilities of the man, and not the other way around. So they get this really rosy image of the Muslim wife, combined with resentment towards men with feminism. By contrast, usually the man comes from a very highly patriarchal mindset, demanding complete obedience from the wife, even thinking that making them think or do things that are completely not in accordance with Islam. I've seen cases where the man completely cut off the wife from seeing her family, her non-Muslim family. I've seen cases where he commanded, I have one case where a Muslim man commanded his stepson, who he was living with, who was not Muslim, not to sleep without a shirt because he said it would turn him gay. I've heard of cases where the husband didn't want to have sex with the wife because she was pregnant, and he was physically disgusted by that. So since many of them are not strong on their faith to begin with, a lot of these brothers, and some of them turn around. It's perfectly. I don't want to criticize everyone. I've seen many cases where the husband really isn't fulfilling their duties. I've seen cases where many of them are completely unemployed. They moved to the city that the female convert was living in, and they were just sitting on their butt all day, not doing anything, or maybe they were just working part-time. So many times the female convert would have to take care of both all the housework and all the work outside as well. So that's another case. So there's also extreme cases. Also, their converts are told they have to act in accordance with the culture, the Muslim culture, even if there's nothing wrong with it, and not do things of their own culture. So, that just creates more confusion. You're told to do these things, thinking that they're Islamic when really they have nothing to do with Islam. So, and again, it's not these traditions are against Islam per se, but many times these converts are just not informed about what they're getting into. I remember one convert, she was married to a Pakistani family, and she was expected to not only serve her husband, but also her in-laws as well, as is common in Pakistani culture. So she protested this, to the imam and to her husband, and he responded, this is normal in our culture. When you're the mother-in-law in the future, your daughters-in-law will serve you. And she responded, well, this is not what I signed up for. But really, you can't place the blame on him, really, because I don't think you have to know what you're getting into before you get into these kind of marriages. And you can sit down as much as you want, but at the end of the day, it's your responsibility. So. Another convert friend of mine was married into a Muslim family. It was and the family was terrified whenever he visited his Christian family, even at his mother's wake, when his mother died, because they thought that that this guy was going to convert them to Christianity because his family was having an influence on them. And this was a strong brother as well. He went to Umrah many times. So tragically, many of these marriages end in divorce, often with children, and the sister is often left out to dry. With no Muslim family to stand up for her, she is often ostracized by the rest of the Muslim community that took her in, left her to take care of her kids on her own, or even worse, sometimes the father will take the kids back home, never to see the mother again. So this, of course, will result in her family giving the "I told you so" attitude. So a lot of these converts, betrayed by these experiences, they'll stop wearing hijab, they'll stop going to the mosque, and sometimes they'll just end up leaving Islam altogether. So as I stated before, this is a sensitive topic, and like I said, there are a lot of great brothers out there, don't get me wrong, who have the best interests at heart if they want to marry a convert. So I'm not here to denigrate them, and let's be honest, these converts are not always angels either. So, I could write another video about that. But these good-hearted brothers sometimes will try to marry a female convert with an Islamophobic family, and they're great people, great couple, but even then, I've seen it before, it ends up in divorce and the women end up leaving Islam. So we can't sweep this under the rug anymore. If you think intercultural marriage is a solution for all converts, then go ahead and try having all these existing Muslim sub-communities marry each other, and just see how that goes. Because many Muslim cultures, as I stated, they're not going to marry outside their own culture, even if it's an adjacent Muslim country. Like I know people from Eritrea who don't want to marry someone Ethiopian because the culture is too different. So if you think that culture, these two cultures are incompatible, where it's 50 to 90% similar, what makes you think that converts are going to fare just as well? So you can't expect converts to be the only solution is to marry into a Muslim family. If we had an indigenous sub-community of converts, preferably from the same background, but even just converts as well, then you have the opportunity to find a suitable spouse within the same culture where the families know each other, where they can get to know each other. It's not a perfect solution, but the greater sub-community that you have, the more you have the chance to screen for potential spouses, and that way, there's a better chance that this Muslim convert will stay within the community. So that's all I have to say for this 3-part video on reason number 3. Thank you so much for listening. Please leave your comments in the comment section. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.